Hi, welcome to James Miller Lifeology, where you learn to simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. My name is James Miller. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a composer. Thank you so much for joining with us today. Let's get started. Did you know that on jamesmillerlifeology.com, you can enroll in the academy I created for listeners just like you? I've created courses you may take at your own pace, which will help you simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. Enroll in one of the classes today. I have a great show for you today. I'm going to help you look at a different version of forgiveness as it pertains to your grief. I'll also be interviewing musician Rahn Anthoni, who shares his story of personal tragedy and how it has helped change the laws for children with special needs. You all know me as a psychotherapist, but some of you may not yet know me as a composer. I currently have 2 albums which have been released. Think of both albums like books. Each composition is written like a chapter in a book. The first album, Consolation, explores a character's grief and loss. And just like in any book, the story explores a character's heartache, and eventually he finds healing and hope. The second album, Restoration, explores a character's personal development. He has an awakening, and in that awakening, he recognizes all the things in his life which aren't healthy, and it helps him come to a place of restoration, being restored to something greater than before. You may purchase both albums on iTunes or any other digital music store. The names of the albums are Consolation and Restoration, and my stage name is James S. Miller. The name of the piece you're currently hearing is from the second album, Restoration, entitled Restoration. Forgiving through your grief. Unfortunately, we all will experience something in our life which causes tremendous grief. And in that moment, it's very natural to experience all the stages of grief. But one of the most difficult things is if that grief then becomes our lifestyle, it becomes our mentality. In other words, it permeates all of our thoughts and all of our actions, and all of a sudden we become this person who's lost their way, and they no longer see anything else. After the stages of grief are experienced, it then becomes our responsibility to decide what we're going to do with that grief or even that situation. I really want to validate whatever you've experienced in your life. It is one of the most difficult things because when you look at it, it is unfair. What people have done to you, what you've experienced in your life is not something that you would ever do to somebody else. So when you think about it yourself, you think this makes no sense. And the reality is it doesn't make any sense. There is a fancy term in psychology that's called radical acceptance. Radical acceptance basically means we accept the facts as they are, but by no means we are condoning what has happened to us, or we agree with it, or we're accepting what's happened. All it simply says is we're accepting the facts as they are in this moment. When we accept the facts as they are, that then removes the emotion from the situation, which then puts the responsibility back on us to basically say, now what? What am I going to do with this? One of the most difficult things is to look at the reframe of any situation. In other words, looking at it in a different way. And one of the ways to look at it is through a lens of forgiveness. I'm sure many people listening to me right now will think, well, James, this person did this to me, or this happened to me, that there's no way I can forgive them. And you're absolutely right. It makes no sense why you would forgive them. But when we look at forgiveness in a different way, it helps you understand that you have the responsibility to yourself to come up with many different options. And what I mean by that is this. When we use radical acceptance, in other words, we accept the facts as they are, we then realize, well, if I continually have this situation be at the forefront of my mind, that is all I'm going to think about. So in other words, all the other hopes and dreams that I had and all the things I wanted to accomplish in my life are not going to be fully realized because there's a portion of my life that is stunted from what has happened to me. And when you look at this more a release for yourself as opposed to a release from that person or what they've done, it then helps you to look at this in a different way. When you forgive someone, it's not something that happens one time and then you move on with your life. It is a mindset. It is a way of life. Forgiving someone allows you to not have to think about it all the time. It allows you not to focus on whatever happened to you. And when you do that, that's when you can fill your life with those goals and hopes and dreams that you have for yourself. In a physiological way, it's really important for us to understand that when we harbor any form of resentment or anger or bitterness, when that is actually internalized in our body based off of our thoughts, that actually causes our body to shut down. It literally causes your body to have ulcers and will have other types of negative ailments that will come out of the resentment that you internalize within your body. When you hold on to something longer than the 5 stages of grief, Unfortunately, it will distract you and cause you never to reach your highest potential. You have a choice in front of you today. Forgiving through your grief is one of the hardest things, but is one of the most freeing things. A quick example of one of the courses you'll find in the Academy entitled Spirit, Mind, Body, The Perfect Triad. This non-religious course helps you understand how your intuition, or rather your gut, your logic, and your body all work together to help you overcome any obstacle you may face. Enroll in the class today. Rahn Anthoni is a Christian R&B hip-hop artist from Atlanta who has a heartbreaking tale of the loss of his special needs son, Aaron. Because of Aaron, Rahn has begun several initiatives to benefit special needs kids. He is also working to change laws about caregivers of special needs children. Hear his inspirational tale of tragedy and triumph with us today. Welcome to my show, Rahn.
Yes, I am so glad to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining with us today. I was reviewing your biography, and I was literally moved to tears, and I was reading it earlier today when I saw the heartache that you experienced. I mean, it seemed as if your life was totally on top of the world, and then you experienced this heartbreaking tragedy. So one of the great things I love about lifeology itself is just simply the reframe of life, looking at it differently. What did we overcome? How do we spin something indifferent to find triumph and hope through something that is so devastating? So I'm really honored that you would be with us today to share your story.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here. And just to let you know, this is a part of my healing process.
Oh, it's wonderful. I'm really glad that we could be a part of that as well.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you. So you have some fascinating backstories, and some people may know who you are. Some people, this may be the first time hearing about you.
Well, musically, I was singing at the age of 3 with the family gospel group called the Family Voices of West Jupiter.
Oh, wow.
And with my mom and all her siblings and grandfather, we just traveled, and only thing I did was shake the shakers. And
that's funny.
At the time, then I started realizing I could do this. And so I kind of hummed a little bit, and it just moved from there. They started allowing me to sing, and then they realized, oh, well, he can sing. And so it started from there. And it's been uphill, ever since until the tragedy. Mm-hmm. But musically, it's been great. I love to, that's how I started, with my family in the gospel.
Now, as you kind of moved up through the ranks of your musical career, you were signed with many different record labels. How did you find your own self? Because as you're going through these things, you're maybe out front, you're doing a show, or you're maybe getting more notoriety. How did you stay grounded through all that?
Life. Because different things that happen, being that I've studied a lot of different books, the Bible, mm-hmm. Science of Mind, all type of Buddha books. I've mm-hmm. just studied, and I've learned that it keeps me grounded from within.
Yes.
And if you're grounded from within, you'll be able to get through anything on the outside.
Yes.
And that's how I stay grounded, just from studying and just learning and looking. See, I wear this shirt called "I See You, but you can't see me."
That's interesting.
Yes, I can see from within. And so if something's coming at me, I will already know it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so with that, with your faith, that's what's always bolstered or maybe helped your self-confidence, or just kind of giving that intuition or that ability to say, well, wait a minute, something seems a little off. Let me stop and reflect. But I think that's a really good point, because so many times people don't do that. They just go on through the day, they're so hectic, and they're just going and going and going, and they don't realize that perhaps if they had taken a little bit of time to stop and reflect, or maybe check in with themselves, that they would have that awareness of maybe they're slightly off path of the way they should be going. And pretty soon they wake up one day and they're in a completely different mindset than what they thought they would have been when they first started out in their career.
Right.
So now when you were moving forward in your career, you actually were the host of a BET TV show, correct?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
So tell us more about that.
Now, the TV show, it was called Star Power. And what I did there, I was actually going to be a artist at the time, and so they put me on the shelf until the producers and all of that. So in the midst of that, the guy who I was working with asked me if I wanted to do a show, and you'll be able to sing on the show. I said, okay, yeah, let's do it. And so I didn't know it was going to be on BET. I was just ready to do something because I moved from Florida to be sitting on the shelf. And so,
Yeah.
and so after that, it just, it was great because I was able to sing and I was interviewing a lot of people that were celebrities, and they were just kind of like what you're doing here, but they were telling their story
Yeah.
about how they got started and all the tragedies and different things that
Mm.
they went through. Then they would perform.
Wow. And so you could really hear their heart even more, having a deeper
Yes.
side of who they are and just
Right.
seeing the depth of who they are. Wow, what a beautiful job that you had. I mean, the sense of you got to see all that and hear that and also just see them perform. And I'm sure it shed a completely different light on who those celebrities were.
Yes. Yes, because my grandmother, she used to always tell me, "You are just so nosy." So I would ask questions that, I was really being nosy.
Yeah.
I wanted to know. So that's what made me the type of person to I never thought I would actually be a talk person that would ask questions or do any of the things that I was doing. And so that led me to the Oscars and to
Wow, I
all
saw
of the
that.
things. And I just never thought being nosy was a good thing.
It's amazing how those gifts, when they're matured and
Yeah.
they're developed, they always can work out in the right way. But there is a blessing and a burden to every gift we have. That is so funny. Now, at this stage in your life, I'm sure your life probably felt just at peace or felt exciting.
Yes, I mean it was singing. I was singing with Dottie Peoples, and I was actually singing and working at a corporate office at the same time, and I was really just making money and doing everything I wanted to do in life,
Yeah.
and married. All of that was going on, and just having a great time.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, I can't wait to talk about your son because a little bit that I was able to read, he sounded like a phenomenal young man. So tell us about Aaron.
Aaron, he had cerebral palsy and he couldn't walk or talk. But he would, he would communicate with us, and it's kind of like how you communicate with God.
Mm-hmm.
So with Aaron, it was like communicating with God because he couldn't talk to us, but he would express things through the waves.
Oh,
That's deep.
yeah.
And so that's how I learned spirituality because he taught me. Something was going on. Now, we wouldn't know exactly what was going on, but we knew something was going on. And so, like, if he wanted, we knew he liked blue, the color blue, because a little things that we used to do. Well, if you like blue, then do this or try to. I used to just do things like that with him, or pick up your hand or do something because I knew that part of his brain was working. It's just his physical part wasn't.
Yeah.
And he couldn't speak. But, and then I would sing, I would do a concert, a real concert. And he would enjoy that. So I know he was creative.
Yeah, wow.
So because he's a part of, my family, my wife's family, and our family is really creative. Every one of us, all of us would sing. So he would hum or
Wow.
Yeah, he would try to say something or, I would make him, just keep going over and over and over, and he would do it. So I knew that was working. So he was a beautiful soul.
Oh, wow. And he said, so he was able to move his hand in the waving component? Okay. And so so the subtle movements of that really made you, and maybe even the erratic movements as well, really made you look at all what that spectrum was and the depth of one single gesture. Wow, what an amazing gift he gave you to teach you how to stop and slow down and really look at what is going on as opposed to glossing over something.
Right. And he taught me patience and taught me love because, you have to have compassion with the child with cerebral palsy. So you have to carry them and hold them. And, I used to lay him on my chest at stage, and, he would love it. And that, that was a beautiful part of it.
Yes, it is beautiful.
And and with his mom, I mean, Erin, she kept him best dressed.
Dressed to the nines.
Yes, he used to have all the name brands, and we've had people ask, well, why do you buy that for him?
Oh, why wouldn't you?
Like,
That doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you not?
Yeah, we're always like, why not?
Yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah, it is always interesting to me how, when people have different disabilities or their different struggles in life, that people forget that they're just as a beautiful human, just like anybody else, and they deserve just as much as everybody else. And so, for whatever reason why people say that, and it's not my place to judge, but I'm glad to see that you and your wife obviously treated him as if he was, which he is, an amazing young man. That's wonderful.
yes,
And then tragedy struck, though.
yes,
What happened?
yes. Well, at the time, we didn't know that he was being abused in Fulton County School District, and so allegedly abused. And so what happened during the 2006, they covered it up.
Oh,
It was
goodness.
so many different kids being abused, and Aaron was a part of it. So we never knew. We just knew that we were taking him back and forth to the doctor because his hip was broken or out of whack. And then I learned that the teacher passed gas in their face,
Oh,
threw
my gosh.
Aaron out of the wheelchair, locked him in a room. It was a lot of different things. She played his cries back to him. It's kind
Oh,
of
my
like
gosh.
torture. And see, we didn't know anything about this. So I didn't find out until the second abuse at another school in the same district. And so this is another teacher. And so at this particular school, Aaron, as they grow with cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy, they grow to the right. And so
Hmm.
his body was adjusted that way because I guess he was trying to hold his head up so that he could breathe. And so when we would turn the TV, turn him, we would have to turn him toward the door, even though he was looking at the TV.
Hmm.
So it was like an L shape. So, but this teacher, took a back brace, ripped it apart, and took his neck and forced it to look at her as like a normal child. And she put a belt around his neck to hold it. And we didn't know at the time. So Aaron had a nurse. I fussed so much because he would come home the bus that his head would be dropping, or he could break his neck because he didn't have muscles at all.
Yeah.
And so he had his own bus at that time when we switched it over. So he had a nurse at the first. She was telling us everything. And then they fired her. So we got another nurse. And then she told us the same story. So
Mm.
I started investigating.
Yeah.
So I noticed bruises on his neck and on his hands and all of these things. So she called, I don't know if she called me or my wife, but for some kind of way, I got to the school from one of them telling me that Aaron had this thing on his neck. So I went up there and I caught it
Mm.
and I took a picture of it. I seen it myself and I didn't say anything. I just, I asked Aaron, I said, Aaron, is this the lady that did this to you? And he said, uh-huh.
Mm.
They didn't know that he would communicate.
Oh, wow.
He would only communicate with people that he trusts. And so after that, the ball started rolling then. And by the time I got to the doctor to get a letter, because they were still doing it, and I got the letter, but that week, that's when Aaron died. It constricted his airwaves. And so, with that being said, when she showed me I didn't learn that all this had happened to after the funeral.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, and I met one of the parents up at this place, and when she showed me the stack of papers and the tapes that the school had an internal investigation and covered it up, I had a heart attack and had open heart surgery.
Mm. I just, first off, I want to thank you so much for your transparency and
Yes.
sharing with us this horrific story. I mean, I can't even imagine what that one must be like for you all. But to sit here on national radio and talk about this, we honor your grief, we honor the loss of your son and the beautiful memory of your amazing young man. How did you and your wife, if I may ask, because I do want to protect your grief, but how did hearing this, on the backside of that, not knowing anything, and finding out afterwards, after his funeral, of course you had the heart attack, but I can't even imagine how you would compartmentalize that in your mind, the beautiful young man that he was, and then then him passing. How would you even navigate through your grief
Well, it's a lot of the, like I was saying, my wife, she can't. I
Mm,
mean, she threw everything away. I mean, she won't talk. Even now, I think that she needs help because, I mean, it's help as far as getting her life back together.
sure. And
And
my listeners totally understand that. I mean, all of us would need help through this, of course.
yes, now with me, it was a different story because I take things spiritually really. I mean, when you tell me something spiritual, I'm going to do it. And because I've been through illness, where I died and
Mm-hmm.
brought me back, and then I was, killed with the open heart surgery, and
Yeah.
I didn't wake up, but I came back. So all of, all of this and the waves and talking to this audible voice, you know, telling me I have Aaron. So
Mm,
I'm fine.
yeah.
And I knew that I just knew that Aaron was in a place, he was with his creator.
Yes.
And so it was kind of hard for them to come at me because every time they would come at me, I would have something to say that was spiritual.
Mm,
So in the midst of my transformation from, life to death, death to life, and all of that, God restored me instantly through the open heart surgery.
wow.
So a lot of memory I don't have.
Mm.
And
And I really think that goes back to that whole part of, I said, what kept you grounded? And you said life and your study of God and of different, of just the
yes,
world around you. And, I always tell people, not only on a personal level, but just when I talk with people about their own spirituality is God. And that's who I call the creator of the universe is who I believe in. And in that he always gives us what we need before we need it. We
yeah,
don't realize that there's so many things that happen in our life, but we already have the answer before even the situation happened, or the answer was already prepared for
yes,
us before the situation even happened. And that's one thing whether people believe the same thing I believe or not is irrelevant in this moment as I talk about my own faith. But the point is that when you believe in something that's greater than yourself, and that when tragedy strikes, it's not because of him, but everything is used as a reframe to help those around us, to help the
yes,
people understand that there's hope. There's always hope, and there's always a way to navigate life to such a degree that it brings healing and wholeness and hope to the people around us.
yes, 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 yes. And even with my wife, I have to preach to her because I mean, when you learn and you know what you know, then there's nothing else. I mean, my mission is to let people know that you have to forgive people.
Yes.
You have to forgive no matter what it is, life, death, with these people that knew about it and did this to Aaron. In order for me to move forward, I had to forgive, and I did it quickly.
Yeah. And I think the key point there is it's not that you have to, it's you choose to. You
I
have
did.
to in the sense of, and these are my words, not yours. I know exactly what you meant by that. But what I want my listeners to hear is it's a choice we make to forgive someone. We don't have to forgive them. But as we've talked about before in previous episodes, I've talked about how the forgiveness aspect itself is really the release of you of what's happened, because that will always bring you back. That situation that you experience will always bring you back to that time, and you'll never be able to wholly and completely move to the person that you were destined or person you were designed to be, because there's going to be a part of you that's always stuck back there. And when we choose to make that decision, that comes back to our own internal awareness, our internal power of what we're going to focus on through, whether that's if God's helping you or anything else is helping a person. But that choice is something we have the power to make, and sometimes even the responsibility to make, to be able to become that person that in our own heart we've always wanted to be, or know that we should be, or that we will become.
Right, right. Yes. And you know, with me, it was like I just knew. I knew that everything was fine. And I knew that, with God and all of the, everything that I've ever learned and the being within me, I knew that it was time for me to go on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey is to let people know, what happened.
Yeah.
And even in the midst of changing the laws with different ones, we managed to change the law. We managed to get cameras in the classroom for special
Oh,
needs.
wow. That's wonderful.
Yes. Yes, I was a part of that.
Mm.
And I never knew that with me speaking from Florida, Jupiter, Florida, and the way that we're from the South, so I'm like, God, you really want me to go up to Representative Stovall and work with her? Me, my voice, and he was like, yes, yes, you go up and you go to that Capitol and you tell them your story and you do this and you do that because, and I chose to do it. And everybody told us, they told us it wasn't, oh, you're not going to get those cameras. You're not going to get those cameras. But I already knew that we were going to.
Yes, yes. And I think that's where, when we remove the level of the fear and the worry and the doubt of what may or may not be based off of what we believe in our heart, that God or our higher power, whomever has told us, when removing that fear, that anxiety opens up a whole new level of confidence, of our ability to really focus on the words we should use or how we're going to present ourselves when we're up there in front of talking to people. So I like to look at it also in a practical way, in the sense that when you truly believe something in your heart, the faith that you have in whatever it is, that is really going to be the testament that you don't have to worry about something, because faith is something that you believe to be true, you hope to be true, even though you don't yet see it. And so that is that unmistakable confidence that we have, regardless, and that peace that we have, regardless of what the world looks like around us, that it's going to work out. And that's something that I some people have experienced, some people haven't. But I want people to know that when you truly believe something that's powerful, that's right, that's true in your heart, if you find yourself waffling or starting to worry, you're looking at a different component. I talk about faith versus fear. The faith component, I have two ways I can look. I can look to the right, which is my faith and what I believe to be true, or I can look to the fear, which is the unknown and that anxiety. They both ask us to do the same thing, believe in something we don't yet know. So that it goes back to that choice we talked about. You believe, in the choice you make and which direction you're going to face determines how successful you're going to be and how confident you're going to be when you go through that trial.
Yes. Yes. And I just thank God that I made it through.
Wow.
And I wouldn't sit here and say that it was an easy road, because there were thoughts that I really had to cast down. And
I can't even, Ron, when I heard all this, I can't even imagine. I mean, I just can't imagine. And I'm sure my listeners are like, what? So I'm glad to hear you say, in the sense of, there were things, of course, that you had to work through. I think sometimes people will be like, oh, well, he didn't have any problems. Of course, you're not saying that. Of course, that's not minimizing the beauty of your son and all that's happened. So I want them to hear, that there is that part of you that is just like everybody else, who has that rage, who has that, those feelings. But your choice that you made, and you continually make, because I'm sure it's not a choice you made one time and you're over and done with it. It is, yes, I can't even imagine that. We only have a few more minutes, but I wanted you to talk about this wonderful nonprofit organization that you are helping to advocate for children with disabilities.
Yes, Aaron Hatcher's They Can't Talk, But We Can is an organization. And what we do, we, just like we were with Representative Stovall and Lala Dunson, they were fighting to get cameras in the classroom. So what we came aboard, and in my sleep, it came to me, okay, we'll tell them to use this. Cameras in the classroom will protect the students from being abused and the teachers from being accused.
That's great.
When that came to me, that's what did it. And we have the Special Needs Rock Awards. This is my third year. And what I do is I give the special needs community and the teachers and the lawmakers an award. Yes, every year. Wow. I give them an award, even though, it's not the way we want it, but the best way to do it is to present our special needs and our elderly, present them to let people know, hey, we're here too. They get to walk across the red carpet. Some would roll across the and we just have a good time. We have my celebrity friends come out, and it's a lot of different things. I'm working with different organizations to help, to help them get through the most trying times in their lives. And I speak to a lot of people about that.
Yeah. Well, Ron, you have an amazing story of tragedy, but also hope and inspiration. And I want to thank you once again. Once again, I want to really thank you for your transparency as you shared your grief, but also your hope and what's happening in your life right now. So thank you for that. And if my listeners would like to find out more information about you, where would they find your information online?
Actually, you can go to theycan'ttalk but wecaninc.org or RahnAnthoni.com, which is RahnAnthoni. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter, all of the social media under that name, Rahn Anthoni.
Excellent. Well, Rahn, thank you once again for being a guest on my show today.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.
I also want to thank you, my listener, for joining with me today. Please subscribe to this radio show through whichever portal you joined with me. Also, please go to my website where you may sign up for my newsletter, enroll in the Lifeology Academy, watch my YouTube episodes, and read all the articles I've written just for you. If you'd like to become a guest or advertise on my show, simply visit jamesmillerlifeology.com. You may also follow me on all social media platforms under the name James Miller Lifeology, except for Twitter, which is James M. Lifeology. Have a fantastic day, and I look forward to speaking with you very soon.